The morning sun cast long shadows across forward operating base Mitchell as Staff Sergeant Maria Santos adjusted her headset for the third time in 10 minutes. The cramped translator booth overlooked the main operations center, where officers moved between computer terminals like pieces on a chessboard. Maria had been stationed here for 8 months, and most days blended together in a routine of intercepted radio chatter, document translation, and briefings that rarely concerned her directly. She was good at her job, fluent in Arabic, Pashto, and Dari, with enough Farsi to get by when needed. The officers respected her work, but she knew what they saw when they looked at her. A support specialist. Essential, but not exactly frontline material. At 5'4" with a slight build, Maria understood why combat roles seemed out of reach. The Army had its ways of categorizing people, and hers was firmly in the intelligence and communications category. "Santos, you getting anything on Channel 7? Called out Lieutenant Colonel Hayes from below. The operations center hummed with the usual morning activity as the day shift took over from the night watch. Maria pressed her headphones closer to her ears and fine-tuned the frequency. Static crackled before voices emerged, speaking rapid Pashto with regional accents she recognized from the northern valleys. "Negative, sir. Just local chatter about market prices and a wedding celebration in Kalina," she replied into her microphone. "Nothing that seems relevant to current operations." Hayes nodded and moved on to the next station. Maria returned to her translation work, converting intercepted communications into neat reports that would eventually make their way up the chain of command. It was important work, she reminded herself. Intelligence gathering kept soldiers alive. But sometimes she wondered what it would feel like to be out there, making decisions that mattered in real time instead of analyzing them hours after the fact. The routine was interrupted when Captain Jennifer Park approached her station. Park commanded Bravo Company's intelligence section and had always treated Maria with professional respect, unlike some officers who seemed to view translators as expensive equipment rather than soldiers. "Santos, I need you to prep for a convoy escort tomorrow. We're running supplies to Checkpoint Alpha 7, and there's been increased chatter about potential IED activity along Route Phoenix," Park explained, consulting her tablet. "I want you monitoring communications during the transport." Maria felt a small surge of excitement. Convoy duty meant leaving the base, even if she'd be sitting in an armored vehicle with radio equipment instead of her usual booth. "Copy that, ma'am. What's the threat assessment looking like?" "Mixed signals. Intelligence suggests possible insurgent activity, but nothing concrete. Could be normal traffic or something more serious. That's why I need your ears on this one. You catch nuances that our automated systems miss." The briefing continued with standard operating procedures, communication protocols, and emergency contingencies. Maria took careful notes, knowing that preparation often meant the difference between a routine mission and a crisis. As Park walked away, Maria noticed Staff Sergeant Jake Rodriguez approaching her station. Rodriguez was something of a legend at FOB Mitchell. A former Army Ranger who had transitioned to intelligence work after taking shrapnel in his left leg during his second deployment. The injury had ended his special operations career, but hadn't diminished his reputation. He moved with the controlled precision of someone who had operated in the most dangerous places on Earth, and soldiers throughout the base sought his advice on everything from tactical procedures to equipment maintenance. "Heard you're joining us on the convoy run tomorrow," he said, settling into the chair beside her workstation. Despite his intimidating background, Rodriguez had always been approachable with Maria, offering guidance when she struggled with particularly challenging translations or technical procedures. "First time outside the wire in 4 months," Maria admitted. "Captain Park wants real-time translation capability in case we intercept anything significant." Rodriguez nodded approvingly. "Smart call. Automated translation systems are getting better, but they still miss context. Regional dialects, cultural references, coded language. That's where human intelligence makes the difference." They discussed the mission parameters while Maria finished her current translation project. Rodriguez had an easy way of explaining tactical concepts without making her feel inexperienced. He treated her questions seriously and never suggested that her role was less important than more conventional combat specialties. "The key thing to remember," he said as their conversation went down, "is that everyone on that convoy has a job to do. Drivers, gunners, communications, security. Your job is just as critical as theirs, even if it doesn't involve a rifle." That evening, Maria spent extra time in the base gym, working through her fitness routine with more intensity than usual. Physical readiness standards for support personnel weren't as demanding as those for infantry soldiers, but Maria had always pushed herself beyond the minimum requirements. Growing up in a military family had instilled certain values that didn't disappear just because her military occupational specialty involved languages rather than weapons. Her father had been a Marine, her older brother was currently serving with the 82nd Airborne, and her younger sister was finishing her second year at West Point. Military service ran in the Santos family like a genetic trait, but Maria had always felt like the odd one out. While her siblings gravitated toward combat roles, she had discovered her talent for languages during high school. Arabic and linguistics seemed like a natural fit when she enlisted, but sometimes she wondered if she was living up to the family tradition. The gym was nearly empty at this hour, with most soldiers either finishing dinner or preparing for the next day's duties. Maria went through her routine methodically, focusing on functional strength exercises that would serve her well in field conditions. Pull-ups, push-ups, squats, and core work. Nothing fancy, but the kind of conditioning that built practical capability. As she worked out, Maria thought about the convoy mission. Route Phoenix was considered relatively safe, but recent intelligence suggested increased insurgent activity throughout the region. IEDs remained the most significant threat to coalition forces, and the stretch of road between FOB Mitchell and Checkpoint Alpha 7 passed through terrain that offered numerous opportunities for concealed explosive devices. She finished her workout and headed back to her quarters, a small room she shared with Specialist Kim Walsh, a communications technician from Ohio. Walsh was already asleep when Maria entered, having pulled the early shift in the operations center. Maria tried to move quietly as she prepared her gear for the next day's mission. Her equipment list was straightforward compared to what infantry soldiers carried, but every item served a specific purpose. Radio headset, backup batteries, translation references, notebooks, pens, and her standard field kit. She also packed her M9 pistol and ammunition, though she hoped not to need either during what should be a routine supply run. The weapon felt familiar in her hands as she performed a function check. Maria had qualified expert with the M9 during her advanced individual training and maintained her marksmanship skills with regular practice at the base firing range. She wasn't infantry, but she was still a soldier, and soldiers needed to be prepared for situations where their primary job description might not be enough. Sleep came eventually, though Maria's mind kept returning to the mission briefing and Captain Park's mention of increased radio chatter. Intelligence work had taught her that patterns mattered, and recent communications intercepts suggested something was building in their area of operations. Whether that something would affect tomorrow's convoy remained to be seen. The alarm sounded at 0500, pulling Maria from dreams filled with radio static and half-understood conversations in languages that shifted between English and Arabic. She dressed quickly in her Army combat uniform, double-checked her gear, and headed to the dining facility for a quick breakfast before the mission briefing. The convoy staging area buzzed with controlled activity as soldiers performed pre-mission checks on vehicles and equipment. 3 mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles would make the run to Checkpoint Alpha 7, carrying supplies and personnel needed to maintain the remote outpost. Maria would ride in the 2nd MRAP with the communications equipment and her translation gear. Captain Park conducted the final briefing in a tent adjacent to the motor pool, reviewing route conditions, threat assessments, and communication procedures. The convoy commander, a seasoned sergeant first class named Miller, went through emergency protocols and contingency plans with the methodical thoroughness of someone who had run this route dozens of times. Weather's clear, road conditions are good, and intelligence indicates normal traffic patterns along our route, Miller reported. Estimated travel time is 90 minutes each way, with a 2-hour window at the checkpoint for supply transfer and equipment maintenance. Rodriguez would serve as the convoy's senior intelligence specialist, coordinating with Maria on communication intercepts and threat assessment. His presence provided reassurance for everyone involved, given his background and experience in similar operations. As the briefing concluded, Maria felt the familiar pre-mission tension that accompanied any movement outside the relative safety of the forward operating base. FOB Mitchell might not be completely secure, but it offered multiple layers of defense and rapid response capabilities that disappeared once the convoy left the main gate. The 3 MRAPs lined up in formation as final equipment checks were completed. Maria climbed into her assigned vehicle and began setting up her communication station, testing radio frequencies, and ensuring clear reception across the spectrum of channels they might need during the mission. "Comms check, all stations," came Miller's voice over the radio network. Each vehicle responded in sequence, confirming clear communication and operational readiness. Maria adjusted her headset and prepared to monitor the local frequencies that might provide early warning of potential threats. The convoy departed FOB Mitchell at 0800, rolling through the main gate and onto Route Phoenix under a clear morning sky. Maria watched the base disappear behind them through her small window, then focused her attention on the radio equipment and the job ahead. For the first 30 minutes, everything proceeded according to plan. The road stretched across relatively flat terrain, with occasional villages and agricultural areas visible in the distance. Local radio traffic remained normal, consisting mainly of civilian communications about daily activities and business matters. Then, Maria heard something that made her sit up straighter in her seat. A brief transmission in Pashto, using terminology that didn't quite fit with normal civilian conversation. The words themselves were innocuous, but the context felt wrong. She replayed the intercept in her mind, analyzing the syntax and regional accent patterns. "Rodriguez, I'm picking up something unusual on frequency 447.2, she reported through the convoy communication system. Conversation about moving the sheep to better pasture, but the speaker is using military time references and grid coordinates. Rodriguez's response was immediate. "Can you get a better fix on the transmission source?" Maria worked with her direction finding equipment, trying to triangulate the signal origin while continuing to monitor the frequency. The transmission repeated twice more over the next 10 minutes, each time with slight variations that suggested coded communication rather than genuine agricultural discussion. Signal appears to be originating from the vicinity of Hill 247, approximately 8 kilometers northwest of our current position, Maria reported. "The speaker is definitely using coded language, but I can't determine the specific meaning without more context." The convoy continued along Route Phoenix, while Maria maintained her monitoring, alert for any additional intelligence that might clarify the situation. The landscape outside remained peaceful, with occasional civilian vehicles traveling in both directions and farmers working in fields visible from the road. It was Rodriguez who first noticed the change in local radio traffic patterns. Civilian communications that had been constant throughout the morning suddenly decreased, creating an unusual quiet across multiple frequencies. "This doesn't feel right," he said over the internal communication system. "Local traffic is dropping off, which could indicate civilians are being warned to stay off the radio frequencies." Captain Park, riding in the lead vehicle, acknowledged the observation and directed increased vigilance from all convoy members. Maria intensified her monitoring efforts, scanning frequencies and listening for any indication of what might be causing the change in communication patterns. The answer came 20 minutes later, as the convoy approached a narrow section of Route Phoenix, where the road curved around a rocky outcropping. Maria intercepted a transmission that made her blood run cold. The speaker was using Pashto, but with urgent undertones that cut through the static like a knife. Maria caught fragments about timing, positioning, and a reference that translated roughly to when the metal beasts reach the narrow place. "Contact front," she shouted into her microphone, just as the world exploded around them. The explosion lifted the front of the lead MRAP 3 feet off the ground before slamming it back down with a bone-jarring crash. Maria felt the shock wave through the armored hull of her vehicle as debris rained down on the convoy. The IED had been positioned perfectly at the curve where the road narrowed, catching them at their most vulnerable point. "IED! IED! Lead vehicle is hit." Miller's voice crackled through the radio, strained but controlled. "We're immobilized but intact. All stations report status." Maria's hands moved automatically to her equipment, checking for damage while her mind processed the tactical situation. The second MRAP, her vehicle, had stopped approximately 50 meters behind the damaged lead vehicle. Through her small window, she could see smoke rising from the front of Miller's MRAP, but the vehicle appeared structurally sound. Vehicle 2, status green. Minor equipment damage from the blast, but all systems operational, Rodriguez reported from her vehicle's commander position. His voice carried the calm authority of someone who had survived similar situations before. "Vehicle 3, we're good back here. No damage. All personnel accounted for," came the response from the trail vehicle. Maria continued monitoring radio frequencies while the convoy assessed the situation. The blast had created a crater in the road surface, effectively blocking the lead vehicle's ability to continue forward. Worse, it had channeled the convoy into a position where they were exposed to potential follow-up attacks from the high ground overlooking the road. "Santos, anything on the local nets?" Rodriguez asked, moving to check her equipment status. Maria had been scanning frequencies since the explosion, listening for communications that might indicate additional threats. What she found was both better and worse than expected. "I'm picking up multiple transmissions from different locations," she reported. "At least 3 separate groups are communicating about our position. They're using code words, but the general meaning seems to be coordination for a follow-up attack." Rodriguez processed this information while coordinating with the other vehicles. The convoy faced a classic tactical problem. They were stopped in an exposed position with limited maneuver options. The narrow road prevented easy movement around the damaged vehicle, while the surrounding terrain offered numerous positions for hostile forces to engage them with small arms fire or additional explosives. "Maria, I need you to keep monitoring those transmissions. Any information about numbers, positions, or timing could be critical," Rodriguez said, then switched to the convoy frequency. "Miller, we need to consider our options here. Intelligence indicates this was probably the opening move in a coordinated attack." The convoy commander acknowledged while directing recovery efforts for the lead vehicle. The MRAP's crew had survived the blast with minor injuries, but the vehicle's front wheels were damaged and it was leaking various fluids onto the road surface. Getting it mobile again would require time they might not have. Maria concentrated on her radio intercepts, trying to extract useful intelligence from the coded communications she was monitoring. The transmissions came in short bursts from different directions, suggesting a coordinated effort involving multiple groups positioned around the convoy's location. One transmission caught her attention because of its unusual word choice. The speaker was using a term that could translate as either shepherds or guardians, but in a context that made no sense for normal conversation. Maria recognized the syntax pattern from intelligence briefings about insurgent communication techniques. "Rodriguez, I think I'm getting intelligence about their positioning," Maria said, her voice tight with concentration. 3 groups designated as Shepherds 1, 2, and 3. Shepherds 1 appears to be northwest of our position, Shepherds 2 to the northeast, and Shepherds 3 somewhere to the south. This intelligence painted a concerning picture. The convoy was potentially surrounded by hostile forces positioned to cover all likely escape routes. Standard procedure would be to call for immediate backup and air support, but help was at least 20 minutes away under the best circumstances. Rodriguez made the tactical assessment quickly. "We can't wait for backup. If they have us positioned for a complex ambush, sitting here makes us easier targets." We need to either push through or fight our way out. The decision was made more urgent by what Maria heard next on her radio intercepts. A transmission in Arabic rather than Pashto, using terminology that suggested the presence of foreign fighters with potentially more sophisticated capabilities than local insurgents typically possessed. "Jake, we have a problem," Maria said, using Rodriguez's first name for the first time since she had known him. "I'm now picking up Arabic transmissions with references to special equipment. That usually means either advanced weapons or foreign technical advisors." Rodriguez understood the implications immediately. Local insurgent groups typically relied on AK-47s, RPGs, and improvised explosives. Foreign fighters often brought more sophisticated weapons and tactical expertise that could turn a survivable ambush into a catastrophic engagement. "Miller, we need to move now," Rodriguez transmitted to the convoy commander. "Intelligence indicates a complex ambush with potential foreign fighter involvement. Recommend we attempt to push through using Vehicle 2 as lead." The tactical situation was deteriorating rapidly, but Maria felt oddly calm as she continued her monitoring duties. Her training had prepared her for this possibility, even though she had never experienced it before. The key was to stay focused on her job, while letting the experienced soldiers handle the tactical decisions. What happened next validated every instinct Rodriguez possessed about battlefield situations. The first burst of automatic weapons fire came from the northeast, exactly where Maria had identified Shepard's 2 based on her radio intercepts. The rounds sparked off the armored hull of the lead vehicle, confirming that the convoy was indeed caught in a prepared ambush. "Contact northeast. Multiple shooters." Miller's voice carried over the radio as his crew returned fire with their mounted machine gun. The sound of the .50 caliber weapon thundered across the landscape, answered immediately by more small arms fire from at least 2 additional positions. Maria continued working her radio equipment even as the firefight intensified around them. Her intelligence gathering had potentially saved lives by identifying the ambush positions before the attack began in earnest, but the situation was far from resolved. "Vehicle 2, we're moving to the front to establish a lead," Rodriguez announced as their driver maneuvered around the damaged MRAP. "Vehicle 3, maintain rear security and be prepared to cover our movement." The tactical evolution was happening fast, with each vehicle crew adapting to changing circumstances while maintaining formation integrity. Maria felt their MRAP accelerate as it moved into the lead position, placing them at the front of the convoy and the first target for any additional IEDs or anti-tank weapons. Rodriguez moved to the vehicle's gun turret, taking control of their mounted weapon system. His experience showed in the smooth efficiency with which he identified targets and directed suppressive fire against the hostile positions Maria had identified through her radio intercepts. "Santos, I need continuous updates on their communications," Rodriguez called down to her. "Anything about additional weapons, reinforcements, or planned movements could change this whole engagement." Maria adjusted her headset and focused intently on the radio frequencies, filtering out the noise of the firefight to concentrate on hostile communications. What she discovered made her stomach tighten with concern. The insurgent groups were indeed coordinating a complex attack, but they were also discussing something called the special gift that was apparently being moved into position. Maria had heard similar terminology in intelligence briefings about advanced anti-vehicle weapons that could penetrate even the heavy armor of MRAP vehicles. "Rodriguez, urgent intelligence," Maria transmitted. "They're discussing movement of a special gift to engage our vehicles." Based on the context, this is probably an advanced anti-tank weapon system. This information changed the tactical calculus significantly. MRAP vehicles were designed to survive IED blasts and small arms fire, but sophisticated anti-tank weapons could defeat their armor protection. The convoy needed to either eliminate the threat or extract from the engagement area before the weapon could be brought into action. Rodriguez made the decision with the split-second timing that had kept him alive through multiple deployments. All vehicles were pushing through. Intelligence indicates advanced weapons moving to engage us. We cannot remain stationary. The convoy accelerated along Route Phoenix, using speed and movement to complicate the enemy's targeting while Rodriguez coordinated suppressive fire against the identified hostile positions. Maria continued monitoring radio frequencies, providing real-time intelligence about enemy communications and tactical intentions. The firefight evolved into a running gun battle as the convoy moved through the ambush zone. Maria could hear the distinctive crack of AK-47 rounds striking their vehicle's armor, answered by the heavier sound of American weapons systems engaging hostile positions from multiple vehicles. What impressed Maria was the professional calm maintained by all convoy members despite the intensity of the engagement. Radio communications remained clear and focused, each crew member performing their assigned duties while adapting to rapidly changing tactical circumstances. Hostile position neutralized on the northeast ridge, Rodriguez reported as his accurate fire silenced one of the enemy positions. Vehicle 3, do you have eyes on the southern position? The trail vehicle confirmed engagement of hostile forces to the south, while Maria intercepted communications suggesting that the insurgent attack was not proceeding according to their original plan. The convoy's aggressive movement through the ambush zone had disrupted their coordination and prevented them from employing their more sophisticated weapons effectively. "Jake, the radio traffic is changing," Maria reported as she analyzed the latest intercepts. "They're discussing withdrawal and regrouping. I think our movement through the kill zone has disrupted their tactical plan." This was encouraging intelligence, but Rodriguez maintained his focus on getting the convoy clear of the immediate threat area. Experience had taught him that enemy forces could adapt quickly to changing circumstances, and premature celebration could be fatal in combat situations. The convoy continued its movement along Route Phoenix, gradually clearing the terrain features that had allowed the ambush. Maria noticed a significant decrease in hostile radio communications as the distance increased between their vehicles and the original attack site. All vehicles were approaching open ground with good visibility, Rodriguez announced. "Maintain security, but prepare to increase speed once we clear this area." Maria felt the tension in her shoulders begin to ease as their vehicle moved into terrain that offered better visibility and fewer opportunities for concealed hostile positions. The immediate crisis was passing, but she continued monitoring radio frequencies for any indication of pursuit or additional threats along their route. What she discovered instead was intelligence that would prove valuable for future operations in the area. The hostile groups were conducting detailed after-action communications, discussing their tactical mistakes and planning adjustments for future attacks. Maria carefully recorded these transmissions for later analysis by the intelligence staff at FOB Mitchell. "Rodriguez, I'm getting detailed intelligence about their tactical assessment of this engagement," Maria reported. "They're conducting what sounds like an after-action review with specific discussions about what went wrong with their attack." This type of intelligence was extraordinarily valuable for understanding enemy tactical procedures and preventing similar attacks against other coalition forces. Maria continued recording while the convoy maintained its movement toward checkpoint Alpha 7. The firefight had lasted approximately 15 minutes from the initial IED blast to clearing the ambush zone, but it felt like hours to Maria. Her first combat experience had been intense and frightening, but also strangely exhilarating. She had performed her duties effectively under pressure, providing intelligence that had potentially saved lives and contributed to the successful extraction from a dangerous situation. Rodriguez climbed down from the gun turret as the convoy reached a secure area with good visibility in all directions. His uniform was stained with gunpowder residue and sweat, but his expression showed the satisfaction of a professional soldier who had successfully handled a complex tactical situation. "Outstanding work, Santos," he said, settling into the seat beside her workstation. "Your intelligence about their positions and coordination probably prevented this from becoming a much worse situation." Maria felt a surge of pride at the recognition, but more importantly, she felt like she had proven something to herself about her capabilities under pressure. The convoy continued toward their destination, but she knew that something fundamental had changed during those 15 minutes of combat. The radio intercepts continued as they approached Checkpoint Alpha 7, providing ongoing intelligence about hostile activities throughout the region. Maria documented everything carefully, knowing that this information would be crucial for planning future operations and protecting other coalition forces operating in the area. Checkpoint Alpha 7 sat on a low hill overlooking the intersection of two major routes, its concrete barriers and guard towers providing a commanding view of the surrounding countryside. The convoy's arrival generated immediate activity as soldiers manning the outpost recognized the urgency in their approach and the battle damage visible on the lead vehicle. Sergeant First Class Williams, the checkpoint's senior non-commissioned officer, met them at the entrance with a medical team and maintenance personnel. He took one look at the damaged MRAP and the grim expressions on the convoy crew's faces before directing his people into action. "What's your status?" Williams asked Miller as the convoy commander climbed stiffly from his vehicle. "IED followed by complex ambush approximately 12 kilometers south of here," Miller reported tersely. 3 personnel with minor injuries, 1 vehicle damaged but mobile, and significant intelligence gathered during the engagement. Williams nodded and began coordinating immediate support for the convoy while Maria gathered her radio equipment and the recordings she had made during the firefight. Rodriguez helped her organize the material, recognizing its potential value for the intelligence analysts who would need to assess the tactical implications of the attack. Checkpoint Alpha 7 was smaller than FOB Mitchell, but well-equipped for its mission of controlling movement along the 2 routes it overlooked. Maria could see observation posts positioned to provide overlapping fields of fire across the entire area, while communication equipment ensured constant contact with higher headquarters and other coalition forces. "Santos, let's get your intelligence uploaded to the tactical network," Rodriguez said, guiding her toward the checkpoint's communication center. "The sooner this information gets to the analysts, the faster they can warn other units about the tactics these groups are using." The communication center was a compact but sophisticated facility with satellite uplinks and secure networks connecting it to military headquarters throughout the region. Maria interfaced her recording equipment with their systems, uploading the radio intercepts and her preliminary analysis for immediate distribution to intelligence personnel. Captain Park, who had remained in contact with the convoy throughout the engagement, was already coordinating with intelligence analysts at FOB Mitchell when Maria's uploads reached the network. The speed with which her recordings were being analyzed and disseminated impressed her, demonstrating the sophisticated intelligence apparatus supporting coalition operations. "This is excellent material," reported the analyst reviewing Maria's intercepts via secure video link. "We're seeing tactical coordination that suggests these groups have received recent training in complex ambush techniques. Your translation work is providing insights we haven't had before about their planning and execution procedures." Rodriguez stood beside Maria as they reviewed the intelligence material with the analyst team. His presence provided reassurance and professional credibility that helped establish the value of her work with people who had never worked with her before. Staff Sergeant Santos identified the ambush positions through radio intercepts before the attack began, Rodriguez explained to the analysts. Her real-time intelligence about enemy coordination and weapons was critical to our successful extraction from the engagement area. Maria felt a mix of professional satisfaction and continued concern about the tactical situation. The intelligence she had gathered painted a picture of insurgent groups with improving capabilities and coordination, suggesting that future operations in the area would face increasing challenges. "What's particularly concerning," she added during the video conference, "is the presence of foreign fighters with apparent access to advanced weapons systems. The terminology they used suggests technical knowledge beyond what we typically see from local insurgent groups." The analysts took detailed notes on her observations while directing additional collection efforts against the radio frequencies and communication patterns she had identified. Maria realized that her work during the convoy mission was contributing to a broader intelligence picture that would influence tactical decisions across the entire region. Williams approached the communication center as the intelligence briefing concluded, bringing updates on the convoy's maintenance status and planning for the return journey to FOB Mitchell. Your lead vehicle is going to need some work before it's fully mission-capable, Williams reported to Miller. We can get it running safely for the return trip, but you're looking at several hours of repair work. This created a tactical challenge for the convoy. Remaining at Checkpoint Alpha 7 overnight would require coordination with higher headquarters and additional security measures, while attempting to return with damaged equipment could compromise their mobility if they encountered additional hostile forces. Rodriguez and Miller consulted with Williams about the tactical options while Maria continued monitoring radio frequencies for any indication of continued hostile activity in the area. What she found was both encouraging and concerning in equal measure. The groups that attacked us are conducting extensive after-action communications, Maria reported to the assembled leaders. They're discussing our response time, weapons effectiveness, and tactical procedures with the kind of detail that suggests they're preparing formal lessons learned for future operations. This intelligence indicated a level of tactical sophistication that was troubling for future coalition operations, but valuable for understanding the evolving threat environment. Williams incorporated Maria's intelligence into his assessment of security requirements for the convoy's extended stay at the checkpoint. If they're conducting detailed analysis of our procedures, they're probably planning follow-up attacks based on what they learned today, Williams concluded. We need to assume they'll adjust their tactics for future engagements. The afternoon was spent in careful preparation for the return journey, with maintenance personnel working on the damaged vehicle while intelligence specialists analyzed the material Maria had gathered. Rodriguez used the time to review tactical procedures with the convoy crews, incorporating lessons learned from the morning's engagement. Maria found herself involved in discussions that went far beyond her usual translation duties. Her first-hand observations of hostile communication procedures and tactical coordination were providing insights that experienced infantry soldiers found valuable for understanding the evolving threat environment. "You've got good tactical instincts," Williams commented during one of their planning sessions. "Most translators focus purely on the language aspects, but you're picking up on tactical implications that are really useful for field commanders." The recognition was gratifying, but Maria was more focused on ensuring that the convoy's return journey would be as safe as possible. Her monitoring throughout the afternoon had detected continued hostile communications, suggesting that additional groups were being positioned along various routes, leading away from Checkpoint Alpha 7. "They're definitely planning something," Maria reported during the final planning conference for the return journey. "Multiple groups are receiving movement instructions with timing references that suggest coordination for potential follow-up attacks." This intelligence influenced the decision to delay the convoy's departure until early evening, when coalition air assets would be available to provide overwatch during the most vulnerable portions of the journey. The tactical adjustment demonstrated how intelligence gathering could directly influence operational decisions. Rodriguez spent the waiting time reviewing Maria's performance during the morning engagement, providing professional feedback that helped her understand how her contributions had influenced the tactical situation. "Intelligence work in combat environments is different from what you do at the base," he explained as they reviewed her radio intercepts. "You have to analyze information quickly and communicate the essential elements clearly while everything is happening fast around you." Maria appreciated the guidance, recognizing that her combat experience had been limited but valuable for understanding how her skills could contribute in field environments. The conversation reinforced her growing sense that she might be capable of more diverse military roles than she had originally imagined. As evening approached, the convoy prepared for departure with the benefit of detailed intelligence about potential threats along their route. Maria's afternoon monitoring had identified specific radio frequencies and communication patterns that could provide early warning of hostile activity during their journey back to FOB Mitchell. The damaged MRAP had been repaired sufficiently for the return trip, though it would require more extensive maintenance once they reached the base. Miller was satisfied with the vehicle's operational status and confident in the convoy's ability to handle the journey under current tactical conditions. Air support will be available throughout our movement, Miller briefed the convoy crews. Intelligence indicates continued hostile activity in the area, but we have good information about their communication patterns and likely positions. Rodriguez ensured that Maria's radio equipment was optimally configured for monitoring during movement, while Williams provided updates on friendly forces operating in adjacent areas who could provide support if needed during the return journey. The convoy departed Checkpoint Alpha 7 at 1800 hours, moving into the golden light of evening with air support orbiting overhead and comprehensive intelligence about potential threats along their route. Maria felt considerably more confident than she had during the morning journey, not because the tactical situation was necessarily safer, but because she now understood her role and capabilities better. The first hour of movement proceeded smoothly, with Maria monitoring radio frequencies and providing regular updates on hostile communications to Rodriguez and the convoy commander. The air support proved its value by identifying and deterring potential hostile activity along several portions of the route. "This is Reaper 7-1, came the voice of the air support controller over the radio. "We're observing movement of approximately 6 individuals with weapons near Grid 41, our PQ 15428, 73692. Appears to be an observation post or potential ambush position." Maria immediately checked her radio intercepts for communications that might be associated with the observed movement. Within minutes, she identified transmissions that confirmed the air support observations and provided additional intelligence about the group's intentions. "Confirmed hostile intent," Maria reported. "Radio intercepts indicate they're conducting surveillance on our convoy with plans to report our movement to other groups along the route." The air support assets engaged the hostile observation post with precision strikes, eliminating the threat while the convoy continued its movement along Route Phoenix. Maria watched the coordinated operation with growing appreciation for how different military capabilities could work together when supported by accurate intelligence. The convoy reached the halfway point of their return journey without additional incidents. But Maria's radio monitoring detected increasing hostile communications, suggesting that their movement was being tracked by multiple groups along the route. The intelligence painted a picture of a coordinated effort to gather information about coalition convoy procedures and timing. "They're definitely studying our operations," Maria reported to Rodriguez. "Multiple groups are sharing detailed information about our movement, vehicle types, and tactical procedures. This suggests they're planning more sophisticated attacks based on what they're learning." Rodriguez acknowledged the intelligence while coordinating with air support to address potential threats identified through Maria's monitoring. The integration of human intelligence with air surveillance was proving highly effective for convoy security, but it also highlighted the sophisticated opposition they faced. As the convoy approached the final 10 kilometers to FOB Mitchell, Maria detected communications indicating that hostile groups were positioning themselves for potential attacks along multiple routes in the area. The intelligence suggested that the morning's engagement had been part of a broader campaign to test coalition responses and gather information for future operations. "Miller, recommend we vary our final approach route," Rodriguez suggested based on Maria's intelligence. "Communications indicate they're expecting us to use the standard entry route and may have positioned assets accordingly." The convoy commander accepted the recommendation, coordinating with FOB Mitchell's operations center to use an alternate approach route that would avoid areas where hostile forces might be positioned. Maria's intelligence gathering was directly influencing tactical decisions in real time. The convoy reached FOB Mitchell without further incident as darkness fell, but Maria continued monitoring hostile communications that provided valuable intelligence about insurgent operations throughout the region. Her work during the mission had evolved far beyond simple translation to become tactical intelligence support that influenced operational decisions. As the vehicles entered the base perimeter, Maria realized that her perspective on her military role had fundamentally changed during the course of a single day. She was still a translator, but she was also an intelligence specialist whose contributions could directly impact mission success and soldier safety. The debrief session at FOB Mitchell began immediately after the convoy returned, with Captain Park leading a comprehensive review of the mission in the main briefing room. Maria found herself sitting at the table with senior officers and NCOs, her radio intercepts and intelligence analysis forming the core of the tactical assessment. Lieutenant Colonel Hayes attended the debrief personally, recognizing that the convoy's experience represented a significant escalation in insurgent capabilities and coordination. Maria's intelligence gathering had provided insights into enemy tactics that could influence operations throughout the region. Staff Sergeant Santos, walk us through the intelligence you gathered, starting with the initial intercepts that gave us early warning, Hayes directed. Maria organized her notes and began presenting her analysis with the confidence that came from knowing her work had proved valuable under actual combat conditions. She described the coded communications that had alerted her to the ambush, the coordination between multiple hostile groups, and the sophisticated after-action analysis the insurgents had conducted. What's particularly significant, Maria explained, is the level of tactical sophistication these groups demonstrated. They're not just conducting attacks, they're systematically studying our responses and adjusting their procedures based on what they learn. Rodriguez added his perspective on how Maria's intelligence had influenced tactical decisions during the engagement, emphasizing the value of real-time translation and analysis in a combat environment. Her identification of ambush positions before the attack gave us critical seconds to respond, Rodriguez reported. Without that early warning, we could have been caught completely unprepared when the small arms fire started. The intelligence analysts who had reviewed Maria's recordings via satellite link joined the debrief through secure video conference, providing their assessment of the broader implications for regional security. This represents a significant evolution in insurgent tactics, the lead analyst reported. We're seeing evidence of formal training, sophisticated communication procedures, and systematic collection of intelligence about our operations. Staff Sergeant Santos has provided us with unprecedented insight into how these groups plan and execute complex attacks. Hayes absorbed this information while considering the implications for future operations. The insurgent groups were clearly adapting to coalition tactics and developing more sophisticated capabilities, which would require corresponding adjustments in friendly procedures and security measures. What recommendations do you have for modifying our convoy security procedures? Hayes asked Rodriguez. Rodriguez had been thinking about this question since the morning engagement, consulting with Maria about the intelligence implications and tactical lessons learned from the experience. We need to integrate real-time intelligence gathering into all convoy operations, Rodriguez suggested. Having a qualified translator monitoring hostile communications during movement provides early warning capabilities that can be the difference between survival and catastrophe. Maria felt a surge of professional satisfaction as her role was recognized as essential rather than merely supportive. The conversation validated her growing sense that intelligence work could be much more dynamic and impactful than the routine translation duties that had previously defined her military experience. I'd like to recommend Staff Sergeant Santos for expanded duties in field intelligence operations, Captain Park added during the debrief. Her performance today demonstrates capabilities that could be valuable for a wide range of missions beyond routine convoy security. The discussion continued with detailed analysis of insurgent communication procedures, weapons capabilities, and tactical coordination. Maria found herself contributing insights that went beyond simple translation to include assessment of enemy intentions and tactical procedures. As the formal debrief concluded, Hayes approached Maria with a proposal that would fundamentally change her military career. Santos, I'm putting you in for additional training in tactical intelligence operations, Hayes announced. What you accomplished today suggests you have the potential to make significant contributions beyond your current duties. The opportunity represented everything Maria had hoped for without quite knowing it existed. The chance to expand her role beyond routine translation work and become more directly involved in tactical operations appealed to her sense of military purpose and desire to make a meaningful contribution. "I'd be honored to accept that opportunity, sir," Maria responded, feeling a mix of excitement and apprehension about the expanded responsibilities. Rodriguez offered to mentor her through the transition, providing guidance on tactical procedures and field operations that would complement her language skills and intelligence analysis capabilities. Intelligence work in tactical environments requires a different skill set than base operations, Rodriguez explained as they walked back to their quarters. "But you've already demonstrated that you can handle the pressure and make good decisions under stress." The validation from experienced soldier like Rodriguez meant more to Maria than any formal recognition. His assessment carried weight because it was based on direct observation of her performance under actual combat conditions rather than training exercises or theoretical evaluations. Over the following days, Maria's routine at FOB Mitchell changed significantly as she became more involved in intelligence operations planning and analysis. Her insights into insurgent communication procedures were influencing tactical decisions across the region, while her intercepts were providing ongoing intelligence about hostile activities. The intelligence she had gathered during the Convoy mission continued generating value as analysts used it to identify patterns in insurgent operations and develop countermeasures for future attacks. Maria realized that single combat engagement had provided intelligence that would influence operations for months to come. Captain Park began including Maria in planning sessions for upcoming missions, recognizing that her expertise could provide valuable input on intelligence collection requirements and threat assessment procedures. The expanded role required her to develop new skills in mission planning and tactical analysis. Intelligence specialists need to understand how their work fits into the broader tactical picture, Park explained during one of their planning sessions. "You're not just translating communications, you're providing commanders with the information they need to make life and death decisions." This perspective helped Maria understand the broader implications of her work and the responsibility that came with providing intelligence assessments to military decision-makers. The translation skills that had originally defined her role were now just one component of a more comprehensive intelligence capability. Rodriguez continued his mentorship by introducing Maria to other aspects of tactical intelligence work, including threat assessment, pattern analysis, and operational security procedures. His guidance helped her develop the analytical skills needed to extract actionable intelligence from raw communication intercepts. The key is learning to distinguish between routine communications and information that has tactical significance, Rodriguez explained as they reviewed intercepts from recent operations. "Sometimes the most important intelligence comes from what people aren't saying rather than what they are." Maria applied this guidance to her ongoing monitoring of hostile communications, developing increasingly sophisticated techniques for identifying tactical intelligence hidden within seemingly routine conversations. Her growing expertise was being recognized by intelligence analysts throughout the region. The opportunity to participate in additional training came sooner than expected when a specialized course in tactical intelligence operations was scheduled at a training facility in Germany. Maria's performance during the Convoy mission had earned her a slot in the program, which would provide formal certification in advanced intelligence procedures. "This is an excellent opportunity for professional development," Hayes explained during their meeting about the training assignment. "The skills you'll learn will make you even more valuable for field operations when you return." Maria accepted the training opportunity eagerly, recognizing it as a chance to formalize the tactical intelligence skills she had begun developing through practical experience. The course would provide her with the theoretical foundation and advanced techniques needed to excel in expanded intelligence roles. Rodriguez helped her prepare for the training by reviewing advanced communication analysis techniques and tactical assessment procedures. His guidance provided practical context for the theoretical material she would encounter during the formal course. Remember that all the theory in the world doesn't replace good judgment and practical experience, Rodriguez advised. You've already proven you can perform under pressure. The training will give you additional tools to work with. As Maria prepared to depart for training, she reflected on how dramatically her military career had evolved in just a few weeks. The Convoy mission had transformed her from a routine translator into a tactical intelligence specialist with expanding responsibilities and professional opportunities. The recognition she had received from senior officers and experienced NCOs validated her growing confidence in her military capabilities. She was no longer just supporting operations from a distant translation booth, but actively contributing to tactical decision-making that directly influenced mission success and soldier safety. Captain Park provided final guidance before Maria's departure for training, emphasizing the importance of maintaining her language skills while developing new capabilities in tactical intelligence work. Your combination of language expertise and tactical instincts is unusual, Park noted. Make sure you maintain both aspects as you develop your professional skills. Rodriguez offered his own perspective on balancing specialized expertise with broader military competencies, drawing on his experience transitioning from special operations to intelligence work. The best intelligence specialists understand both the technical aspects of their work and the tactical environment where it gets applied, Rodriguez explained. Your background gives you advantages that pure technical specialists don't have. As Maria prepared to board the transport aircraft for Germany, she carried with her not just her personal equipment and training materials, but also the confidence that came from proving herself under actual combat conditions. The Convoy mission had been a defining experience that established her credibility and opened doors to expanded opportunities. The flight to Germany provided time for reflection on how much her perspective had changed since arriving at FOB Mitchell. She was no longer content with routine support roles, but eager to take on challenges that would test her developing capabilities in new environments. Looking ahead, Maria could see a career path that would allow her to combine her language skills with tactical intelligence work in ways that would make meaningful contributions to military operations. The Convoy mission had been just the beginning of what she now recognized as her true military calling. The training facility in Germany represented the next step in her professional development, but Maria knew that her real education had begun during those intense minutes of combat when her intelligence work had directly influenced tactical decisions and potentially saved lives. 6 months later, Staff Sergeant Maria Santos stood in the operations center at FOB Mitchell, but her role had transformed completely from her early days in the translator booth. Now she wore the distinctive intelligence specialist badge and led a team of linguists and analysts who provided tactical intelligence support for operations throughout the region. The training in Germany had exceeded her expectations, providing advanced skills in signals intelligence, tactical analysis, and field operations that complemented her natural language abilities. More importantly, it had connected her with a network of intelligence professionals who recognized her unique combination of linguistic expertise and combat experience. Her team occupied an expanded section of the operations center with sophisticated equipment for intercepting, analyzing, and disseminating intelligence to field commanders in real time. Maria had fought for resources to ensure they could provide the kind of immediate tactical support that had proved so valuable during the Convoy mission. Santos were getting reports of increased radioactivity in Sector 7, reported Specialist Johnson, one of the newer linguists who had joined the team. Multiple groups appear to be coordinating movement in the area where Bravo Company is conducting operations. Maria moved to Johnson's workstation and reviewed the intercepted communications with the analytical skills that had become second nature through months of tactical intelligence work. The patterns were familiar, but concerning, suggesting a coordinated effort similar to what she had encountered during her first Convoy mission. "Get this to Captain Martinez immediately," Maria directed, referring to Bravo Company's current commander. "Include assessment that this appears to be preparation for a complex ambush similar to previous incidents in the area." The intelligence dissemination process that Maria had helped develop ensured that tactical commanders received actionable information within minutes of intercept rather than hours later through traditional channels. This capability had already prevented several attacks and saved numerous lives during recent operations. Rodriguez, now serving as the Operations Center's Senior Intelligence NCO, approached Maria's section with updates on the developing situation in Sector 7. His role had evolved to coordinate intelligence support across multiple units, while Maria's team provided specialized linguistic and signals intelligence capabilities. Martinez is requesting immediate overwatch for his patrol based on your intelligence, Rodriguez reported. Air assets are moving to provide support, but he wants continuous monitoring of hostile communications during his movement. Maria assigned her most experienced analyst to maintain direct communication with the patrol while monitoring relevant frequencies. This real-time intelligence support had become standard procedure for operations in high-threat areas, based largely on lessons learned from Maria's convoy experience. The patrol proceeded successfully through Sector 7 with early warning of hostile positions and tactical intentions provided by Maria's team. The integration of linguistic intelligence with tactical operations had become so effective that commanders now considered it essential rather than supplementary support. Outstanding work, came Martinez's voice over the radio as his patrol completed its mission. Your intelligence about their positioning allowed us to avoid 2 potential ambush sites and gather significant intelligence about their operational procedures. These successes had established Maria's reputation throughout the brigade, but more importantly, they had validated her belief that intelligence work could be dynamic and directly impactful rather than purely analytical. Her team's capabilities were now requested for high-priority operations across the entire area of responsibility. Captain Park, now serving as the brigade intelligence officer, visited Maria's section regularly to coordinate intelligence support for complex operations and review the team's expanding capabilities. Their professional relationship had evolved into mutual respect based on proven performance in challenging tactical situations. Your section has become the model for tactical intelligence support throughout the division, Park noted during one of their coordination meetings. Senior leadership is considering expanding this capability to other forward operating bases based on your success here. The recognition was gratifying, but Maria remained focused on the immediate mission of providing intelligence support that kept soldiers alive and operations successful. The responsibility of leadership had taught her that professional satisfaction came from team performance rather than individual recognition. Lieutenant Colonel Hayes approached Maria's workstation during the evening shift change, carrying orders that would again transform her military career in unexpected directions. Santos, you've been selected for promotion to Sergeant First Class and assignment to the Pentagon as a tactical intelligence advisor, Hayes announced. Your expertise in field intelligence operations has attracted attention at the highest levels of the Army. The assignment represented recognition that Maria's unique combination of combat experience, linguistic skills, and tactical intelligence expertise was valuable for strategic-level planning and operations. It was an opportunity she never could have imagined when she began her military career as a translator. The position involves advising senior leadership on tactical intelligence procedures and helping develop new capabilities based on lessons learned from field operations, Hayes explained. Your experience here has provided insights that could influence how the Army approaches intelligence support for tactical units. Maria accepted the assignment with mixed emotions, recognizing the professional opportunity while feeling reluctant to leave the team and mission that had become her military identity. The transition would require her to apply field experience to strategic planning in ways that could influence operations far beyond her current area of responsibility. Rodriguez congratulated her on the promotion and assignment while offering perspective on the career progression that had brought her to this point. You've proven that intelligence specialists can be tactical operators rather than just analytical support, Rodriguez observed. That distinction will be valuable when you're advising senior leaders who may not understand the difference. The weeks before her departure were spent training her replacement and documenting the procedures her team had developed for tactical intelligence support. Maria wanted to ensure that the capabilities they had built would continue serving soldiers effectively after her assignment to the Pentagon. Specialist Johnson, who had shown exceptional aptitude for tactical analysis, was selected to lead the team's day-to-day operations under Rodriguez's supervision. Maria spent considerable time mentoring Johnson on the leadership aspects of tactical intelligence work that weren't covered in formal training programs. Remember that commanders need actionable intelligence, not just accurate translations, Maria advised during one of their training sessions. Your job is to tell them what the information means for their tactical situation, not just what the enemy is saying. This guidance reflected the analytical philosophy that had made Maria's team successful in providing tactical intelligence support. The distinction between passive translation and active intelligence analysis had become central to their operational effectiveness. As Maria prepared for her final mission at FOB Mitchell, she reflected on the transformation that had begun with a single convoy operation. Her military career had evolved from routine support duties to tactical leadership and now to strategic advisory roles that could influence Army-wide procedures. The convoy mission that had introduced her to combat had been the catalyst for professional growth that exceeded anything she had originally envisioned for her military service. The experience had taught her that military roles were limited more by individual initiative than by formal job descriptions. Captain Park organized a farewell gathering for Maria that included soldiers from throughout the base who had worked with her intelligence section. The attendance demonstrated the professional relationships she had built and the impact her work had made on operations across the brigade. Staff Sergeant Santos changed how this base approaches tactical intelligence. Park addressed the gathering. Her innovations in real-time intelligence support have kept soldiers alive and missions successful throughout her assignment here. Rodriguez presented Maria with a plaque recognizing her contributions to tactical intelligence operations, signed by commanders whose units had benefited from her team's support. The recognition represented validation from the tactical operators whose opinions mattered most to Maria. You set the standard for what tactical intelligence specialists can accomplish, Rodriguez said during the presentation. Take that knowledge to the Pentagon and make sure they understand what's possible when intelligence professionals are properly integrated into tactical operations. As Maria packed her equipment and personal belongings for the move to Washington, she carried with her not just material possessions, but also the confidence that came from proving herself in increasingly challenging roles. The transition from translator to tactical intelligence specialist to strategic advisor represented growth that exceeded her original military aspirations. The flight from Afghanistan to the United States provided time for reflection on the experiences that had shaped her military career. The convoy mission remained a defining moment, but it had been followed by months of continued growth and expanding responsibilities that validated her potential for strategic-level contributions. Landing at Washington Dulles Airport, Maria looked ahead to assignment at the Pentagon with anticipation rather than apprehension. Her field experience had provided credibility that would serve her well in strategic planning roles, while her linguistic expertise offered perspectives that could influence how the Army approached tactical intelligence operations. The Pentagon assignment would present different challenges than field operations, but Maria approached it with the same analytical mindset that had made her successful in tactical intelligence work. Her mission would be to ensure that strategic planning incorporated lessons learned from tactical operations where intelligence support directly influenced mission success and soldier survival. Walking through the Pentagon's corridors on her first day, Maria carried with her the knowledge that military careers could evolve in unexpected directions when individuals demonstrated competence and initiative under challenging circumstances. The convoy mission that had begun as routine transportation had become the foundation for a career that would influence Army intelligence operations at the strategic level. Her office in the Pentagon's intelligence section overlooked the Potomac River, but Maria's perspective remained focused on forward operating bases and tactical units where soldiers depended on intelligence support for mission success and survival. Her role would be to ensure that strategic planning served tactical needs rather than bureaucratic convenience. The transformation from translator to strategic intelligence advisor represented personal and professional growth that exceeded anything Maria had originally envisioned for her military service. The convoy mission had been the catalyst, but sustained excellence in increasingly responsible roles had earned her the opportunity to influence Army-wide procedures and capabilities. As she reviewed her first strategic intelligence briefing at the Pentagon, Maria remembered the radio intercepts that had provided early warning of the convoy ambush months earlier. The same analytical skills that had proved valuable in tactical situations would now be applied to strategic challenges that could influence military operations worldwide. The journey from F.O.B. Mitchell's translator booth to the Pentagon's strategic planning offices represented more than career progression. It demonstrated that military service offered opportunities for individuals who proved themselves capable of growth and increasing responsibility under challenging circumstances. Maria's story had begun with a simple convoy mission, but it had evolved into proof that military careers were limited more by individual initiative than by formal job descriptions. Her experiences would continue influencing Army intelligence operations long after her Pentagon assignment concluded.